My name is Astrid. I'm 34 years old, a financial advisor based in Denver, and I've spent my entire adult life building something I could count on, my own version of peace, security, and independence. I thought I knew how to keep chaos at arm's length. Until the day I got a phone call from my parents, asking if my sister Melissa, her husband, and their 2 kids could move into my 2-bedroom condo, indefinitely, because Melissa had sold their home, for freedom. It wasn't a joke, though it sounded like one. They'd bought a luxury van, quit their jobs, and hit the road to chase sunsets and self-discovery. But freedom doesn't pay for gas, or repairs, or groceries. And now, I was expected to bail them out, again. Only this time, with my home, my time, my peace. Before I tell you what happened, and what I chose to do, let me say this. I believe in helping family. I always have. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them set fire to your life just because they can't manage their own. This is the story of how I stopped being the family's safety net and started being something stronger. Someone who stands firm, even when the whole house leans on you. When you grow up as the responsible child, you don't notice it at first. It's not a label anyone says out loud. It's in the way people smile tighter when you enter the room. It's how your parents sigh with relief when you say yes, again, to something you didn't volunteer for. It's how your sister gets applause for showing up while you get silence for holding everything together. I'm Astrid. I was the reliable one. By 10, I was making my own lunches and alphabetizing the spice rack. At 13, I was babysitting for half the neighborhood. I tracked every dollar I earned in a spreadsheet long before it became my profession. My parents never worried about me. I didn't give them reasons to. That was Melissa's job. Melissa is 2 years younger, and from the very beginning, she spun chaos like it was an art form. Her world was glitter, broken pencils, and open doors. She once skipped an entire week of high school to follow a band across state lines. Her college savings vanished during sophomore year because she decided to move in with a guy she'd known for a month. When it all imploded, and it always did, it was me they called to pick up the pieces. My parents made excuses every time. "She's just finding herself," Mom would say, eyes soft. "She's got your mother's free spirit," Dad would add with a chuckle, like her recklessness was charming instead of dangerous. And me? I had common sense. I was the one who stayed home, who worked 3 jobs through college and still graduated debt-free. I bought my condo before 30. I planned. I prepared. I played it safe. I also played it alone. I never asked for much, never wanted the spotlight. I just wanted room to breathe. And if that room meant I got less attention, less affection, less patience, fine. I could live with that. Melissa, on the other hand, lived like someone else would always catch her. And they usually did. At 25, she married Rick, a soft-spoken electrician with a strong back and kind eyes. For a while, we all thought maybe she'd finally landed. Their wedding was modest, but ran over budget, and I ended up covering the overflow. Melissa promised to pay me back. She didn't. I told myself it was a gift. Maya was born a year later, then Tyler 2 years after. I adored them immediately. I set up education funds the week each of them was born. Melissa laughed at me for it. "Live in the moment, Astrid," she said once, as if the moment would feed and clothe 2 kids for 18 years. When they bought a small 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, I felt something strange. Hope. Melissa called me giddy after painting Maya's room purple and organizing Tyler's dinosaur collection. "You'd love it," she said. "It's finally starting to feel like a home." It did. For a little while. We slipped into a rhythm. Family dinners, birthday parties, holidays. I still played support staff more than sister, but I was used to it. When their fridge broke, I sent money. When Melissa had a last-minute emergency, I dropped everything. Every time, she promised it was the last time. It never was. I had my own life in Denver, one I had crafted brick by brick. My condo had a view of the lake and a home office I loved. I worked hard, kept to my rituals, dated once in a while, and felt no need to explain myself. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. And it was peaceful. Melissa never understood that peace. She thrived in noise, in movement, in the illusion of freedom. I noticed it more in the last year, how she'd started romanticizing spontaneity. Her Instagram became a stream of van life couples and off-grid families posing in front of national parks. She started dropping phrases like corporate slave and escaping the matrix. At one barbecue, while scrolling her phone, she asked, "Don't you ever get bored living the same day over and over?" I looked at her. "No," I said simply. "I like knowing where I'll sleep each night." She gave me this look, pity maybe, or contempt. "That's so sad, Astrid." I laughed it off, but something in my stomach tightened. I should have known. I should have realized that look was a warning. Because not long after that, Melissa would burn down the house of stability we all thought she was finally learning to live in. And she'd expect me to stand in the ashes, holding the extinguisher. The announcement came on a Sunday, during what I thought would be a normal family dinner. Mom's lasagna, mismatched wine glasses, kids running wild. But something was off. The good china was on the table. Mom had actually ironed the napkins. I should have known. Melissa beamed as she sat down, gripping Rick's hand. "We have news," she said, eyes sparkling. "We sold the house." My fork froze mid-air. "You what?" Rick gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're starting something new." Melissa jumped in before I could ask another question. "We're going on the road, full-time, homeschooling the kids, seeing the country, breaking free from the system. It's something we've always dreamed about." "Always? Since when?" "Wait," I said. "You sold your home, the house you just painted last summer, the kids' school?" "They'll learn more from the Grand Canyon than they ever will in a classroom," Melissa said, brushing it off like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "We're building them a real education, real experiences." My parents clapped like someone had just announced a scholarship. "What a wonderful adventure," Mom gushed. "This is so brave, so modern." I looked at the kids. Maya stirred her lasagna in circles, and Tyler was unusually quiet. Not a word, not a smile. That was the first red flag. Later, after dessert, while Melissa scrolled Pinterest boards for van conversions, I found Rick alone in the kitchen, rinsing wine glasses like his life depended on it. "You really okay with this?" I asked quietly. He let out a breath. "It's what Melissa wants." "But what about what's best for the kids?" He paused, then shrugged. "She thinks we're all trapped. That the 9-to-5 grind is soul-deadening. That the kids are being programmed for mediocrity. And you?" He glanced over his shoulder. "I think she's just restless, obsessed with this idea that everyone else is living a better life. You've seen her feed. Every picture-perfect van family out there." I had. And I knew what he meant. Do you have a plan? Budget? Emergency fund? What happens if the van breaks down in the middle of nowhere? Rick's expression darkened. "Melissa says we're overthinking, that the universe will take care of us." Ah, the universe. When people say that, they usually mean you. Within a month, the house was gone. They sold it for more than asking, thanks to the hot market. But instead of saving for emergencies, Melissa went all in. She posted every step like she was running a travel blog. The custom Sprinter van, the bamboo interior, the solar panels, the composting toilet. "Freedom isn't cheap," she captioned one post, posing barefoot in the van's kitchenette, while Maya looked on from the corner, visibly tired. They spent over $90,000 before even hitting the road. Meanwhile, the kids had to give up most of their belongings. Tyler cried when he had to choose only 3 dinosaurs to bring. Maya's bookshelf ended up at Goodwill. I invited Melissa to coffee one afternoon, hoping to reason with her. "What's your plan for healthcare? Schooling materials? Winter?" "You're always so afraid," she said, sipping her latte. "It's why you're stuck in your routines. We'll figure it out. That's the beauty of this life. Flexibility. But kids need structure. They need security." "That's corporate propaganda," she said, eyes bright with borrowed wisdom. "They're learning to adapt, to explore. Our ancestors didn't sit in cubicles. Our ancestors also had a life expectancy of 40, I muttered. She didn't laugh. 2 weeks later, Rick quit his stable job. 6 years. Benefits, all gone. They threw a farewell party before departure, complete with a cake shaped like their van. My parents were glowing with pride. I stood in the back, holding a paper plate, and wondering how I was the only one who could see the iceberg ahead. "Aren't you proud of your sister?" Mom asked, sliding up beside me. I didn't answer right away. "She's taking control of her life," she continued, "doing something courageous." I glanced across the room at Melissa, who was photographing the cake while Maya quietly picked at the frosting. "It feels less like courage," I said, "and more like abandoning responsibility." Mom's face hardened. "Not everyone wants to live a safe little life like yours, Astrid. Some people want more than paychecks and Excel spreadsheets." It landed like a slap. I went home that night angry. Not at Melissa, not even at my parents, at myself. Because no matter how reckless her decisions were, I knew exactly how this would end. And I knew, when it did, they'd all come knocking at my door. Again. It started with a voicemail. "Hey, Astrid, it's Mom. Just a quick thing. Melissa and the kids are getting the van back soon, and we were thinking, since you've got that extra bedroom and office, maybe they could stay with you for a little bit, just until they get back on their feet. Shouldn't be more than a few months. We told them you'd probably be fine with it." I played it 3 times to make sure I heard it right. They told them I'd be fine with it. No one asked me, no warning. Just a plan already in motion. My space, my money, my life, already committed in my name. I called them immediately. "Wait, you told Melissa they could move into my condo?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Well," Mom said carefully, "we might have mentioned it as a possibility." Dad chimed in. "It's not forever, just a few months. You have the room and the means." My stomach turned. "You mean the office I used to work from home? You want 4 people to live in my 2-bedroom condo, indefinitely, and you promised this without even asking me." There was a long pause, then Mom said it. "Family helps family, Astrid." Ah, the classic. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring out at the city lights, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. I wasn't just angry, I was done. So I sent a message to the family group chat. "We need to have an emergency family video call tomorrow at 7 p.m. Everyone must attend. This is not optional." The next evening, I opened my laptop and took a deep breath. One by one, the screens flickered on. My parents, sitting on their couch, tight-lipped. Rick in a motel bathroom, looking exhausted. Melissa, last to join, her face already defensive. "Thanks for making time," I said, voice steady. "There are some miscommunications we need to clear up." "If this is about staying with you," Melissa cut in, "we've already figured out a plan. The kids can sleep in the office, Rick and I will take the guest room. We'll be quiet during your meetings. It's just temporary." She spoke like it was a done deal, like my home had been pre-approved for occupation. "Actually, that's exactly what I want to address," I said. "I never agreed to this. I wasn't even consulted." "Oh, come on," she said. "You live alone in a downtown condo. What, you can't handle a little company?" "Melissa, my condo is 1,200 square feet. The second bedroom barely fits a bed. My office is where I work. You're talking about cramming 4 people into a space barely big enough for one. And what? I'm supposed to cover groceries, utilities, and expenses too? We thought you'd help. Temporarily," Dad added. "Given your financial situation." I stared into the camera. "Let me get this straight. You expect me to give up my workspace, my peace, my financial security, and accommodate 4 people, because Melissa chose to sell her home and live out of a van?" "That's what family does," Mom said tightly. "No," I replied. "Family supports each other through actual emergencies, not the predictable outcomes of reckless decisions." Melissa's face turned red. "Just because I didn't want your boring, soulless life doesn't mean I made a mistake." "Actually," Rick said, clearing his throat, "I think it was a mistake." Everyone froze. "What?" Melissa snapped. Rick looked straight into the camera. "Sophia's right." "It's Astrid," I corrected. "Right. Sorry, Astrid's right," he said louder. "This didn't work. The van broke down. The kids are miserable, we're broke. And honestly, it's mostly been Melissa's call from the beginning." Melissa's head snapped toward him. "Are you serious right now?" "She spent $300 on a yoga retreat in Sedona," Rick continued. bought designer outfits for Instagram posts, paid for a luxury campsite just to get better photos. I told her the van was making weird noises for weeks, and she said to trust the universe. Now it's totaled. We're stuck, and she still wants to keep going. My parents looked horrified. Is that true? Mom asked. Melissa crossed her arms. Those were investments, for the brand. What brand? I asked. You don't have a following. You have a disaster with a filter. Melissa's lip curled. You're just jealous because I had the guts to live. No, I'm furious because you're gambling with your children's stability and expecting the rest of us to pay for your fantasy. Rick spoke again. Astrid offered to help. She just doesn't want us moving in, and honestly, I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to live with us either. I exhaled slowly, watching the cracks finally show. I'm willing to help, I said, but in ways that make sense. I'll contribute to a deposit on an apartment. I can help find affordable housing and connect Rick with job leads, but I'm not a shelter, and this is not happening. So you're abandoning us? Melissa said, her voice brittle. I'm refusing to enable you. You're heartless. No, I said. I'm tired. I've paid for your wedding, your rent, your kids' education funds. I've rearranged my life again and again for your emergencies, and it never ends, because no one ever says no to you. Well, I'm saying it now. Silence fell like a dropped stone. Finally, Dad spoke. She has a point, Mom bristled. So that's it? You're letting your niece and nephew go homeless? Rick stepped in. They won't be homeless. I'll find a way. We'll find a way. But Melissa needs to stop pretending this is everyone else's fault. Melissa's square vanished from the screen with a furious click. Then my parents. Only Rick remained. For what it's worth, he said quietly. You're right. And thanks for standing your ground. Then he was gone too. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the empty screen. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up someone else's mess. I was simply standing still and letting them face the wreckage they'd made. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I went to a quiet coffee shop, opened my laptop, and started planning. Not for Melissa, but for the kids. I looked up rental listings near where they were stranded in Nevada. 2-bedroom apartments ranged from $850 to $1,100, reasonable compared to Denver. I found 3 in decent neighborhoods with solid school districts. Then I pulled up construction jobs nearby. Rick had experience. He could get hired quickly, even if just short-term. I ran numbers, mapped expenses, built a budget. It was muscle memory at this point, problem-solving, but this time, on my terms. That night, I messaged Rick privately. I have a plan. Want to talk? He answered almost immediately. We video-called while Melissa took the kids to the motel pool. He looked wrecked. We're down to 3 days here, he said. After that? I don't know. I shared the listings, the numbers, the strategy. His face shifted, cautious hope breaking through fatigue. This could actually work. It's not a loan, I told him. I'll pay the deposit and first month's rent for Maya and Tyler. He swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Just get them stable, I said. That's all I want. 2 days later, Rick signed a lease on a modest 2-bedroom. The kids would start school after the break. He sold the van to a parts dealer. Melissa reluctantly agreed, barely speaking to me, but going along because she had no better option. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. For the first time, I was helping in a way that wasn't about erasing someone else's mistakes. I was building something solid, something sustainable. My parents didn't thank me. Not at first, but a week later, my dad called with questions about his retirement account. His voice was softer than usual. You did good, he said, after a long pause. And that was enough, for now. Spring arrived slowly, both in Denver and in our family. The apartment in Nevada became a real home. Maya hung artwork on the wall. Tyler got a library card. Rick kept his construction job and earned a promotion. Melissa found part-time work at a bakery. She rarely posted on social media now, as if the dreams she had tried to sell the world had faded quietly into something real. We didn't become close again overnight, but the silence from my parents thawed gradually. My mom started sending photos of Maya's school projects. Dad forwarded articles about budgeting tips, like peace offerings in disguise. I visited them during spring break. Melissa was different. Not softer exactly, but grounded. That night, standing on the apartment patio, she looked out at the parking lot and said, "It's not the Grand Canyon, but the kids smile more here." She didn't apologize, but her voice had lost its sharpness. "I'm trying," she added. I believed her. Later, Maya curled up beside me on the couch, showing off her certificate for Student of the Month. "Remember the van?" she whispered. "I used to cry a lot." I wrapped my arm around her. "Yeah, I remember." "I don't cry anymore." That night, I lay in bed and finally felt peace. Not because I fixed everything, but because I didn't. I held the line. And somehow, that gave all of us a chance to build something better. Love without boundaries becomes obligation. But love with intention, that becomes freedom. The real kind.